U.S. military ousting Maduro. Pre-ousting, what you saw was the clear plurality of Americans opposed at 47%, just 21% support. Come over to this side of the screen. After the ousting, look at that. The support through the roof. Now we're talking about 37%, well within the margin of error right here of the opposition, 38%. It turns out Americans like what they deem to be successful foreign policy operations. And in this case, they view the ousting of Maduro, at least up to this point, as a successful one, and therefore the support way up.
CNN data guru Harry Enton on the surging support for the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro. Now some Democrats demanding answers about what happens next in Venezuela and whether President Trump is planning military action potentially in other places. We bring in Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, whose committees include Foreign Relations, Judiciary, and Appropriations. Senator, thank you very much. It's good to have you with us today. What do you make of that polling, of the increase in the amount of support, significant increase, up 17 points for removing Maduro?
Look, Martha, I think that reflects, as that commentator said, that Americans support successful military actions. I'm grateful that no American sailors or pilots or soldiers were killed. A few were injured, but they seem likely to recover. They carried off, from a military perspective, a successful raid and intervention that kidnapped and removed to the United States the illegitimate dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. The challenge, and this is what most of us in my caucus on the Hill are raising, the challenge is the lack of a clear plan for what comes next. President Trump has been threatening boots on the ground. He briefed oil executives before he briefed any members of Congress. He has threatened to attack Colombia or Cuba. And we have a massive flotilla now in the South Caribbean that, at least according to Secretary Rubio, will be there for some time to blockade Venezuela. I'm worried about the precedent here. What's to stop communist China from using the exact same example and saying, OK, our courts have declared the president of Taiwan a criminal. We're going to go in there, kidnap him, bring him back to stand trial in China, and then blockade Taiwan.
I've heard that argument.
What's our argument then?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, if anything, it makes them a little hesitant to go forward with those kind of plans at this point. They see that they've heard so many presidents, including Biden, rail against Maduro. Maduro must go. Maduro must be removed, and not do anything. So now they see someone who's actually willing to do something. I want to ask you a little bit about the U.S. oil companies. And I want to play something that you said in an interview earlier today. And I want to talk to you about this. Let's watch.
Taking over and getting access to the country with the world's largest oil reserves and making those accessible to American oil companies whose refineries were built decades ago specifically to take Venezuelan oil back when we had regular positive commerce with Venezuela.
All right, so let me ask you about that. So these refineries were built by U.S. oil companies. And then, as you point out, relationships fell apart because communist leadership took over in Venezuela, and they took ownership, essentially, of those refineries. A lot of them became rusted and don't work as well as they used to anymore. And they were built mostly by U.S. companies. Only one U.S. oil company still operates in Venezuela, and that's Chevron. So why wouldn't we want U.S. oil companies to have access to the resources in Venezuela and move out Iran and Russia and China and their influence from these areas? Why shouldn't we return to the friendly relationship that you just talked about with Venezuela that was more beneficial to the United States?
Well, Martha, I would agree that getting Russia and China and Iran and Cuba out of Venezuela is an admirable goal. I agree that Maduro was an abusive dictator who stole an election, who oppressed his people. Both Presidents Biden and Trump had a bounty for his arrest. And so let's be clear. I will not in any way mourn the fact that Maduro is no longer leading Venezuela. And I do think that having open and regular commerce with a democratic Venezuela would be a positive thing. What I was most concerned about and commenting on in that clip was that President Trump, in his remarks immediately following the kidnap and removal of Maduro, wasn't talking about democratic elections, spoke disrespectfully about the amount of support the opposition has, despite Maria Machado winning the Nobel Prize. She leads the opposition,
look, Senator,
despite Gonzalez winning the last election.
Senator,
so let me just finish my sentence, Martha.
Okay.
I would like us to go back to, as you mentioned, a time when Venezuela was a democratically governed country that had good and regular commerce with the United States. And the refineries I was referring to are in the United States, mostly in Texas, where they were made to receive Venezuelan oil.
All right. So don't you think it's better? Don't you think it's better if the United States oil companies have an improved relationship? It sounds like you agree with this with Venezuela, and then oil prices. That's why you see the market going, off today and yesterday, because the opportunity for lower energy prices in the United States is now present. If they had come, if President Trump and his team had come to you and said, we're going to go remove Maduro, and one of the benefits, besides national security, lower drug trade, all of this will be that potentially we're going to get lower oil prices and gas prices here in the United States. And they said, are you good with this, Senator Coons? Would you have said yes?
Look, what I'm not good with is invading another country, taking their head of state and bringing him to the United States.
Why not?
Let me finish my sentence. With no clear plan for what comes next, because of what happened in both Iraq and Libya. Look, President Obama said one of the biggest mistakes of his presidency was participating in the military overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya with no clear plan for what to deal with the civil war,
so you would have said
the
no.
chaos and the violence that resulted.
If they came to you from the White House and said, Senator Coons,
we
have this really elegant plan that we've worked on for a long time. We want to remove Maduro. And we are not going to make the mistake that was made in Iraq, because in Iraq, they removed all of the Ba'athist regime as much as they could. And there was no one there to kind of keep things a little bit steady in the transition period, which is what they've done here. You just heard General Keane say, I think this is probably the way to go. Leave some of this structure in place and then hopefully move towards a democracy. You would have said, no, don't do it.
How long do you think 20% of our Navy, thousands of Marines and sailors, and dozens of aircraft, how long will we need to have them stationed offshore to continue a blockade against Venezuela?
I don't know.
And does it not alarm you that President Trump said, I'm not against boots on the ground? Look, President Trump won the election. He won the election by saying, I will lower your costs. I will make America healthy again. I'll release the Epstein files.
But sometimes,
and no stupid foreign wars.
Sometimes you
and
need
he's failing on all four of them.
Sometimes you need to say that all options are on the table, including boots on the ground. It doesn't mean that that's what you intend to do. It means that the adversary doesn't know exactly how far you're willing to go. And it appears that that's the strategy that is in play here. Now, as I said, the president who you supported, President Biden, wanted Maduro out of there. He never did anything to make it happen. So now you have action that has taken place. I know you're not crazy about the way that it happened, but let's see if the goal is achieved. And are you willing to say, if the goal is achieved, that you would be supportive of it?
Absolutely. If we could transition to a democratic governance of Venezuela,
that's what the Venezuelan people want,
and achieve peace in Venezuela and the region.
That's why you see people rejoicing who came to this country from Venezuela, because they are very elated that this thug who has allowed the torture of people for decades is now been removed from their world, from their country. We'll see where it goes. Senator Coons, thank you, as always. It's good to have you with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Martha.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.